Hey guys, welcome back. Drip Coach here with Drip and Farm for Poverty, where we don't trust, we verify, and operate with integrity and transparency. Today, doing a Jack Mahler's recap, like I always like to do. I highly encourage you guys to watch his Mailbag Mondays because, man, as I said, I cannot give this man enough props. The way he breaks down macro and news that is telling us what is going on behind the scenes for politics and for Bitcoin. I have not seen anyone do it on this level, probably for the simple fact that he's in his 30s and he's been doing this since he was in his teens, and his dad comes from a background with this, and he is a Bitcoin maxi for sure, building on top of Bitcoin. So I highly, again, suggest watching the live. It's an hour. He does a pretty good job of trying to keep it right there, an hour 15. But also this highlight reel that his team puts together is a good synopsis as well. So we're gonna watch that and I'll give my 2 Satoshis.
The US government has kind of let us down in not giving us the full audit of how much Bitcoin the US government owns. That's just a fact. They said they would and they haven't. Here's a slightly hot take. Clearly, that information is sensitive, or else they would disclose it. And Bo Hines, one of the representatives of the White House, came out and said, we're not ready to disclose that information. We consider that classified sensitive information at the moment. Why is that sensitive information? What's sensitive about that?
I'm gonna pause there because that's also what we saw with the gold reserves. Trump went out there and was going to release this information and said he was, and then all of a sudden, right now it's going to take, I don't know how many weeks they said, or years or some shit to audit Fort Knox. And to that, I kind of understand, because you could literally have gold bars sitting there that are fake, and you would have to test these things. I don't know how long the testing process of gold, verifying the purity of that is. Do you have to melt it down? What does that take to verify gold? But Bitcoin is verified every 10 minutes publicly. And real quick, I forgot where this was. Let me pull that up. All right, we're going to dive into this. There was a thread by a public journalist that submitted a FOIA request, but let's first finish up with what Jack was saying.
Big clue there, guys. I think that the US government is ashamed of its Bitcoin position. It wants to be a leader.
The United States will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done.
And they must have discovered that they're not the leader they thought they were. That's my guess. Could be a hot take. I think that these guys are realizing that the Democrats sold off a bunch of that Bitcoin, and they don't want to make an announcement until they can build the position back. Do I like the fact that they told us they'd give us a transparent audit and they didn't? No, of course I don't like that. But is my takeaway that the US government is too incompetent to count up a bunch of UTXOs? No, of course not. My takeaway is pretty simple. I think that that's sensitive information because the US government wants to be the Bitcoin superpower, and what they realized is their holdings are a threat to that brand identity. I do think that the US government is not done with their strategic Bitcoin reserve. Whitehouse.gov/crypto? I've been in this space for 13 years. Never in my life did I think we would have a web page on the White House website. And let's be clear.
We'll circle back to that whitehouse.gov site. That is definitely a positive step in the right direction. But let's go back to this thing that Jack said, which I do believe has some validity, not just a hot take like he said. So first and foremost, let's look at what supposedly the US is supposed to have. So President Trump stated he wants to be the Bitcoin capital of the world and hold more Bitcoin than anyone else. So according to what we had heard previously, is that we were the leader at 198,000 and China. So none of these have been verified, but these are the numbers that have been floating around for the longest. Now let's fast forward to what this journalist discovered. And this was a spicy thread, man. I'm surprised it did not get more visibility. I had read it a month ago now almost, but I didn't post this. But now tying it into what Jack said, it makes perfect sense. So this journalist submitted and obtained a FOIA request from the US Marshals revealing that the government holds 28,000, we'll call it 29,000 BTC. Now, this is the Marshals. This is not any other alphabet soup agencies, but Man, oh man, if that is indeed true, that, as Jack mentioned, the Democrats sold off a bunch of Bitcoin, then damn. And as people mentioned in the thread, so we don't have enough data on this. This means most of the seed BTC is already in private hands and likely never coming back. But there's some other states in here stating that there could be other amounts in other entities. But either way, it's a far cry from what they said they had. And that would make perfect sense as to why we have not gotten this public statement yet. And why, as of recently, oh, where is that? I need to pull that up. Hold up 1 second. This here, the US imposing tariffs on 1 kilo gold bars. So the US is putting tariffs on gold, but as Michael Saylor stated down here, Bitcoin lives in cyberspace, no tariffs on gold or on Bitcoin. So all of this coming together to me is showing that the current regime wants to acquire more Bitcoin and get more money to buy more Bitcoin, i.e. the tariffs on gold. And also, since the Loomis Bill is being kicked around to budget neutral ways to acquire Bitcoin, and other countries have already re-evaluated or rebalanced their gold on their books with the current market value. So I think all of this is taking place behind the scenes, and then the government will indeed showcase how much BTC they have. Problem with them evaluating the gold or reevaluating the gold, I don't know if they have to verify that the gold is there, or do they just say, hey, we said we have this much, so here's the value of what we said we had, or do they still have to do the audit? But TLDR, what Jack said, I believe, is 100% factual based off of this data that this independent journalist came up in the FOIA request she submitted. And Trump is a huge ego-driven businessman. So one way or another, I believe they will acquire more Bitcoin. And man, oh man, if they start buying and publicly buying, maybe they're already buying behind the scenes, that is again another catalyst for the bull run. Crazy. All right, smash that HBO special, help brother out, like, subscribe, comment down below. And until next time, live daily and achieve your impossible. See ya.